Exercise 3. In exercise 3, our goal is to take a look at the functions inside Inventor that are secondary. In other words, like fillets, draft, and some advanced sketching techniques like mirroring. So we'll begin with a new part file. And if you want to save that right away, you go to File, Save, and let's go ahead and call that E4. We begin, we're going to design this ratchet, and just to show you what it looks like, here's an image out of the training manual on page 38. And you can see it's broken up into three main parts. We have the head, the transition section, which is just the shaft, and then we have the handle. And then we'll take a look at the very end on how to create like an engraved or embossed text. To begin with this, we will start off by drawing the head section. And here we can see a sample of the sketch in the beginning of section 1 of exercise 3. So we'll start off on the XY plane. You can hit Create Sketch, Create 2D Sketch. And then we'll start off by drawing a line and make sure it's set to a center line. Click at the origin, drag it straight up about an inch high approximately. And you can hit Escape or Done. Now make sure you turn off center line and go back to line and draw on the left hand side, maybe about a quarter of an inch away, a little bit more than that. Click on that horizontal line, drag it up, and a slight angle, maybe about 100, 105 degrees, between 100 and 105 degrees. Click, and then hit Escape. Now our goal here is to get that mirrored over to the other side. As we learned with the last exercise, you just simply click on it, go to the mirror tool, and then click on mirror line and select the actual mirror line and hit Apply. And done. Now we get to go ahead and put some arcs on here, a bottom and top arc. So instead of drawing circles like you might be familiar with in other CAD systems, here you could actually go to the arc tool, and there's a nice tool called the arc at a tangent. Click on that, and then locate the vertex on the upper left corner. Click once, drag it up and around, and connect it. Do the same at the bottom. Click the bottom right, drag it down and around, and connect it. And now there's no trimming involved. If you ever did need to trim, if you are going to use the circle method, which you can do, the trim tool is right up here. And you just click on the geometry you don't want, and it will trim up to the next edge. And we'll learn a bit more of that in the next lesson. Now at this point, we're going to go ahead and put the dimensions in. So we could go ahead and click on the bottom, and it's going to be 0.6. The top arc is going to be 0.75. And the distance between the two, if you click on both arcs and drag it to the right, will be 0.75. Now what we need to do here is actually get the center point locked in to the origin. And the way you'd want to do that is first hit Escape to get out of your dimension tool, and go up here to Constraints and find the coincident constraint. Select this point down here, which is the origin, and then find the little green dot where this 0.75 extension, the dimension, comes out to, and hold Control and select it. And then you will see it will automatically move and relocate to lock in with the relationship. Go ahead and hit Finish, and now we could go ahead and extrude this. So in the book then, we're going to extrude it 1 inch thick by mid-plane we're going to go under the more area here to add 7 degrees of draft on both sides, because if this is going to be pulled out of a mold or a die, we want draft so it could pull out easier. So let's go to Extrude. And you can either use these tools, or up here they're a little bit more easier to see sometimes. Depends. Once you become more used to the interface, you might want to use these quick launch ones instead. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and use this. So over here we have the mid-plane or symmetric extrusion. We have it set to 1 inch. Distance is fine. Now click on More, and here's the taper, which we want to add 7, actually -7, and hit Enter. And then you'll see you have draft on there. Now if your draft is going in the wrong direction, or the taper as they call it, you could always right click on this, or actually left click, and you'll see there's Edit Sketch or Edit Extrude. If you click on it Extrude, it will bring back that dialog box. And under More here, you could go ahead and reverse it if you have to with the taper. Or make sure you put the -7 in there. Again, I'm going to go to the View and under Visual Style. I'm going to go with Shaded with Edges. Alright, and there we have the head. Now the next step is we need to put a small recess on the head. And it's going to be offset approximately 125 thousandths from the outer edge. And then it's going to be cut as a recess 125 thousandths deep. So for that, just click on this face in the front and then find Create Sketch. At this point, you could go ahead and find the Offset tool, select the edge, and you'll begin to see an offset preview. Go ahead and just make sure that the green preview is on the inside. Click, and I go to Dimension, and dimension between the 2 edges. And make sure it says 0.125. Make sure you put 1.25 in there. Alright, at this point, we're ready to go ahead and cut the recess. So we just hit Finish Sketch, go to Model, Extrude, and now for a cut, if you recall, there's the option right here, which is Cut to remove material. And then we go ahead and make sure we put in the right distance, the depth, in this case 0.125. And now move your pointer over here, make sure Profile is selected, move your pointer over the profile you want to extrude, click on it, and you'll see the preview. As long as the preview is showing the arrow in the proper direction, and you see that, like this light transparency, you can go ahead and hit OK. Otherwise, you could flip it if you need to. Okay, there's our recess. Let's go ahead and click on this bottom face now. And again, create new sketch. This time we're going to go ahead and draw some circles on each center. So find a center for the top, click and drag out a circle there. Find a center for the bottom, drag out a smaller circle, but make sure that they intersect each other a little bit there in the middle. What we need to do with this, now we're on page 34 of the manual, is we need to go ahead and put in 0.5 and 0.35 dimensions. Actually, we'll trim first. Let's trim first, and then we'll go ahead and do that. So now we could see how the trim tool works. And you'll find the trim tool right up here. Just select it, and the X key is a fast key for trim. Just click on the intersections that you don't want, and it'll trim up. Now go ahead and to the Dimension tool, select the top arc, make sure that's set to 0.5, and the bottom arc should be set to 0.375. Now we're ready to extrude. So we have to hit Finish Sketch, Extrude, and we want to remove material again, so we select the Cut option, and the depth in this case needs to be 0.75. and make sure you select the profile. Hit OK. To rotate, hold Shift and the middle mouse button and you could rotate dynamically, or you could always drag this if you want. Alright, the last part of the head is we need to select the bottom surface of the pocket that we just created and create a new sketch. Go to the circle tool and at both centers go ahead and draw out smaller circles, and let's actually make them equal to one another. So find up here under the constraint tool, go ahead and select both. You hold Control, there we go, and then go ahead and now we go ahead and we add a dimension, and that will be 0.375. We're finished with that sketch, and now we just go to Extrude, again select Cut, and instead of a distance, let's specify all, so it goes through all. And then go to Profile, and you could select both profiles and hit OK. The next feature we need to add is we need to actually offset. I'm going to zoom out here and give myself a little bit of room. We need to actually offset a plane that is located in the center. It's the XZ plane. So if you select the XZ plane from the feature tree on the left, then over here you'll find plane, hit the little arrow underneath there, and offset plane, offset from plane, select that. Now you can see it's going in a different direction. Just grab that arrow and drag it down and away from the smaller end, because we need to draw that transition section. And it's going to be 4 inches. In that case, you see it's at the top. That's unfortunate because I forgot to put in the actual minus symbol there. So if I go over here to Edit Dimension, and we type in minus, okay, in that case I made a little bit of a mistake. It wasn't updating. So what you might want to do is, if you accidentally forgot to put in, or if you messed up all my directions, you might not have gotten the 4 in there, or the minus 4. So my suggestion is, if you see it in the feature tree, the plane, just click on it and hit delete. And then let's just re-add it again. So again, select the XY plane, or XZ plane, and then go to the plane tool, offset plane, and make sure you type in the minus 4. And hit the green check mark. So it should show at the bottom. Now the next thing we want to do is we click on that plane. We want to add a sketch to it. So if you select it, over here you'll find 2D sketch, or you'll actually find it over here as well, create sketch. And we could go ahead and just draw the circle here, right at the center. Click and drag out a circle, and we're going to go ahead and dimension that. And now we're looking through from the top, which is fine. In this case, we want it to be 0.5 for the diameter. Otherwise, you could rotate it. As you can see here, you have the ability to just click on these little arrows if you want to flip it. The little bottom arrow will get you there to the other side. And now, since we're done, we hit Finish Sketch, and we could go to Extrude. Now with the Extrude, if we were to go ahead and extrude this, we might have difficulty finding that little section where it's cut off. And we don't want it to go through like the preview we see here. So there's another option, which is to Next, which up to Next ensures that it matches up with the other volume that you're trying to match it up to. So hit OK, and now those are two, they're actually merged together as one. And if we don't want to see this plane that we created, I'm just going to right click on it, and you can turn off visibility. There's a little check mark. Okay, the next part of this is we want to go ahead and select the XY plane. And you can launch a sketch from there. So create sketch, zoom out a little bit, and now I'm going to take the rectangle tool and right about, actually I'll draw right out here, and it should be approximately, like you can see the numbers there, it should be I believe it's 1 inch, and if you hit tab you can make sure that the other one is 4 inches. Let me just verify that that's 1 inch here on the handle. Now on page 36. That's 1 inch and dimension 3.75 off from the center base of the head. So what I want to do next here is we're going to go to the line tool and find center line. Select the center line, then go ahead and glide up here, and what you're finding here is a midpoint relationship with that rectangle. Click on that midpoint relationship and just drag it up approximately 3-4 inches, and then hit escape. Now at this point we can actually grab that point after you hit escape and drag it and connect it to the origin, that little yellow dot there in the center. And let's go ahead now and add a dimension. Click on dimension and dimension the actual center line, and it's going to be 3.75. And the reason why we're having a little bit less, or it's actually intersecting into this, is because we're going to add draft onto this rectangle from the center, and if we were to have this edge right on this edge, the draft would just have a very thin little piece of material connecting to the transition section, so we don't want that. So we're going to intersect it just a little bit. Okay, at this point we could go now to Finish Sketch and Extrude. Now for the extrusion on this one, we're going to go ahead and extrude it mid-plane option at 0.75 thick with 7 degrees of draft in this case. So let's go ahead and select right over here, symmetric. Go to the draft or the taper and make sure it's set to -7. And then go back to shape and make sure that this is set up properly for a distance of 0.75. And hit OK. And now you can see the handle has our features on it. Or at least our draft, I should say. At this point, now we want to go ahead and add fillets. And the fillets are right over here. And they're specified to be 0.125 around these top and bottom edges, as well as the ones on the side of the handle so no one cuts themselves. So these are the larger ones. And it's defaulting to 0.125 on mine, which is fine, so I can go ahead and select this edge here, and this edge, and zoom out, select this edge, that one there, the one on the bottom, and the one in the back. Now be careful, you don't want to add draft necessarily to these edges here. That's where the draft is, or and you don't need to actually add fillets on there, although you could. Hit OK. Now we're going to need some smaller fillets. Let's go back to fillet and let's put in 0.06 and select this edge at the bottom, top. And notice because it's not tangent, it does not propagate all the way around, so you have to help it. You have to click on the bottom as well. Same goes with the front. And then go ahead and add to these edges here where the handle transitions into the transition section, as well as the head. Hit OK. And that technically finishes what we cover in the book. Now, this extra exercise, or portion of this, is to put some text on this surface. I'm going to go ahead, and you don't have to do this. This is optional. I'm going to create a sketch, and I'm going to go with the line and center line. and draw, basically just like when you're in school, the teacher would draw a little center line for you to follow on the board when you'd write your name. You do the same thing here. Kind of give yourself a feeling of where it's centered. Later on you could center it if you need to. And now you just click on the geometry and you'll find text. And you have geometry text. Click on geometry text. And go ahead and you will get this dialog box that opens up. You could select from any of the TrueType fonts. In this case, I would suggest something simple like Arial or Impact work really well. Something that's thick, like even Arial Black. The reason for that is that sometimes the scripted geometries intersect one another, and then it will not allow you to extrude it for a recess or an extrude boss. So in this case, I'm going to put down Inventor. And over here, click on Geometry and select that line. And if you hit Update, you can see it in the preview. Now here, it's a little small, so what I can do, actually, you'll see there's ways to flip it around, clockwise, counterclockwise, so on and so forth. There's center justification, there's even right justification. I'm going to center justify it, hit Update. And then there's a stretch ability, so I could widen it. Say I made it 120, so it stretches it out a little bit. You could even add italicized. Bold sometimes can cause things to intersect one another, so be careful using that. It might fail to extrude then, but you could test it out. If it doesn't work, just turn off bold and try it again. Or you go with one of the, like Arial Black is like a bold version of Arial. So I don't really need to go with any bolder than that. And then the size, let's go with 0.24, update it again. Actually, 0.25. If you accidentally get out of it, just double click, actually right click, and you're able to get back in. As you click, right click, and you'll find Edit Geometry Text. This will bring you back in and you'll be able to modify it. So let's try that again. For some reason it's not. There we go. Let's update that. Make sure you select the text. This allows you to select just a variety of different text. Let's say you had a paragraph you're trying to engrave on it for instructions. You could highlight certain sections of it and change the style or make it italic, so on and so forth. Okay, at that point, I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And now we could hit Finish Sketch. And if I go to Extrude, I could actually extrude that. Now if I want it embossed, I use the boss. If I want it engraved, I use cut. Make sure it's, either way, make sure it's set to 0.03. You don't want it too large. And then click on the actual text and hit OK. In this case, I made an engraving, and you can see it there. And that completes this exercise 3.